let's get into some deep philosophical talk here today, because the Vancouver Canucks have the day off, which means that we can pull out topics out of thin air and actually talk about things that revolve around team discussion rather than the actual games that are being played. Let's talk about Elias Pettersson and controlling the mind. Because there was this article that came out on NHL.com just a few days ago. 5 questions with Elias Pettersson, posted by Tim Campbell on NHL.com's news website. I think it was a really good read. I highly recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. But I wanted to read to you the first actual question and answer from this 5 question and answers article right here, because I think it really goes over something that Elias Pettersson is probably really good at, and something that I think a lot of people can look at and be like, huh, okay, that's how that works. That's really neat. So without further ado, let's pull up the first question and the first answer here from this article on NHL.com. How do you, Elias Pettersson, deal with all the attention you receive on the ice from opponents and off it from the fans? This is what Pettersson had to say to this, and I think it's a really interesting answer that not a lot of people would immediately think about when answering a question like this. It's always been with me as a player. It's always been something to deal with. My dad once told me that if a guy wants to try to get you out of the game or get inside your head, that's a good sign. So just forget about it and think about what you can control. You can't control what other people think of you or what opponents will do. So you always try to be positive and focus on what you can control. The rest of the answer goes about how Pettersson was really popular in Sweden and how he was a fan favorite and how he quickly became the same here in Vancouver and in North America. But I thought that initial response, the first half of the answer there, was really interesting. And that's why I said at the beginning, let's talk a little bit about philosophy, because this is kind of a philosophical point of view that can present itself in different areas of life. This whole idea of focusing on the controllables, not focusing on things that you cannot control. This is the kind of thing that you would hear from, let's say, for a weird non-hockey related example, dating coaches. There are tons of YouTube videos online, because I totally haven't seen any of them, that talk about this exact same philosophy. Hey, if you're trying to go out, ask somebody out, focus on what you can control. Don't focus on the uncontrollables. Things like your height, your race, whatever, these are things you can't control, so don't focus on that. You'd hear this kind of advice when you're in school and you're stressed out. Don't focus on the fact that you have all of these tests coming out. Don't pay attention to all the things that surround you at once and can potentially crumble your mental health and your anxiety. Focus on the things that you can control. Focus on how you react to it. Don't focus on the situation itself. Focus on how you can be better within the circumstances. And that's really weird to relate to hockey. This is the first time I've actually talked about actual life stuff on my video ever since those black and white thumbnail videos that I would make back in like grade 9, 5 years ago, would come out where I would talk about philosophical things. But this Elias Pettersson thing right here, talking about how he views the game of hockey, I think is so awesome, because this is the kind of thing that anybody can take a piece out of and say, yeah, that's a really good way to do it. If he's getting pounded on, he's getting hounded in the corner, he's getting absolutely roughed up, because people are going to be the way they are, and because Pettersson can't necessarily say, hey, stop that, man, he's not going to be in a position where he gets all pissy about it. Pettersson is going to control how he reacts to it, and whether that's pulling off a fancy move to get by the guy or shimmy shaking to get through, he's going to find a way to do it properly and not try to enforce himself in the ways that some hot-headed people, maybe, I don't know, just pulling examples out of my head here, maybe like an Antoine Roussel would. Because if Roussel gets hit, you know for sure he's going to come back and he's going to bite back. Pettersson is not the same way, and it's really interesting to see the philosophical differences. Not saying that Antoine Roussel is a bad player because he hits people, but I'm just saying that the difference in philosophy definitely does exist. Now, we have seen Pettersson once in a while indeed exhibit that physical game, particularly against LA. That was the game where he actually started hitting people like crazy, and it was really interesting and funny to watch. He did fall down quite a lot, but at the same time, when Pettersson wants to, he can be really feisty, and I think that's really, really cool. But for the most part, his overall approach to the game and his approach to how people get onto him, I think it's really respectable, and I think it's the right way to go if you're a superstar in this league. He talked about how he's been in this mindset for his whole life pretty much because his dad instilled it within him that you can't control what other people do about you. You can just control how you react to it. Focus on what you can control, and that's when things will become successful. And for the most part, that's what Pettersson has done his entire career. When he was drafted, he was a thin, lanky guy. So what did he do? He gained a few pounds. Not a lot of pounds, but he gained a few pounds. That's within his controllables. Pettersson, when he was drafted, was more known as a playmaker, a guy who can actually set up plays with elite hockey IQ, vision, and skills. But his shot wasn't all that great. He had a little bit of a light muffin, and Pettersson wasn't really known for his shot. That's why he focused on that in the offseason. He did those 16 or 20 individual exercises that combined in order to make the primary shot form. I don't know, it was something weird like that, but we learned about this over one of the off seasons that Pettersson did individual exercises that exercised different parts of his body that would allow his shot as a whole to become absolutely phenomenal. He focused on that because that was in his controllable range, and his shot became amazing within an off season. Take his explosiveness too. Elias Pettersson wasn't necessarily known as somebody who was amazing at skating back when he was drafted, but over the offseason, he trained out with Emil Patterson, he posted the videos on Instagram, and we all kind of got a glimpse as to what Pettersson was doing in the offseason to make himself better. And he's gotten so much better. So, when I think of Pettersson today and I look at how he's been able to transition from this normal, lanky kid with not a great shot but some elite visioning from 2 years ago up until the player he is now, I take a look at him 2, 3, 4 years down the line and I see a player who cannot be stopped. Because if he's just going to keep on working and working and working at the things that he can control and the things about himself that he can improve on, the sky is the limit for Elias Pettersson. I don't care how light he is, because he can probably gain some more weight too. And trust me, if Pettersson was really, really good now, really shifty, really skilled, really fast, imagine if he was able to keep up those qualities playing as a 200-pound guy. Imagine Pettersson at 205 pounds with the same skills that he has today. Now, I say that because it's not guaranteed, because if you do get heavier when you play hockey, you will have to adjust the way that your body moves. You will have to adjust the way you skate. You will have to adjust your explosiveness, the way you handle the puck. It's just inevitable with a player who goes from 170 pounds to 200 pounds. You're not just going to be able to keep up the same way of play as you did when you were 170. But Pettersson is a player who I think can honestly pull it off. And heck, even if he doesn't get to 200 pounds, still, that's great. Johnny Gaudreau is a small guy. He's doing pretty well for himself. Brad Marchand is a pretty small guy. He's doing pretty well for himself. And I'm not saying that Pettersson is small, he's just light. Does he need to get any taller? Nah, I don't think so. But gaining a few pounds here and there wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for Pettersson. But the way everything goes right now, I think this mindset that he has and the way he controls his mind, the way he controls what he focuses on and how he plays in the game is such a valuable asset to have. And to me, it's not something that a traditional hockey answer would depict. Because when you talk about players, oh, how did you adjust coming into the NHL when all the attention was on you? The normal answer is kind of the same thing. It's just, oh yeah, I just go out there, I just want to play my game, do my thing, I just want to score some goals. And yeah, that's the normal hockey answer. But Pettersson, he gave us the same answer, but in a much more articulated and a much more professional and relatable sounding way. So when you take a look at it at its baseline level, I think it's a really relatively applicable philosophy that you can apply to anywhere in your life. control the controllables. Don't focus on what you can't control. Control how you react to that. And everything else should fall into place. Hope you enjoyed this video social 99, and bye.